Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. How many of you would like to stop family drama that comes up after the death of a loved one? Are you tired of dealing with nagging family issues or what to do with the house? If you are, then listen up to this video. It's the second in a three-part series about how they plan to take your property. Now, last week we talked about the first they, and that was the government. This week, as titled Family Fights, the second part of the who they are our family. I am attorney Cena Patterson. I'm the principal attorney here at Patterson Justice Council in Detroit, Michigan, where we help homeowners, property owners, investors, and business owners to protect their property, have their rights respected, and leave legacies to their lineage. So today we are talking about how they plan to take your property, the they again being family. Now, often it's a fight over the family property, the family house. And often we're talking about the they, it's a sibling because often our siblings are the last ones left in the family unit of, the family house once mother and father deceased. So mother and father become elderly. Then you have that second generation of siblings, and often it's, three, four, or more, and everybody doesn't agree on what to do with that property. Now, hopefully, mother and father had a good estate plan, but not only that, hopefully they updated it so that it's current. Okay, so that it reflects truly their last will and testament, not their last will and testament from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Now, that's a big mistake right there. Always keep it current. We'll get in another video on that later because that's coming up a lot, I see. But right now, we're going to talk about the they being family who often are plotting to take the property somehow. And often it is siblings. And we're going to talk about 3 different reasons why and how that happens and what you can kind of do to counteract that. We'll talk about the main issue you can do to counteract that at the end. So that's actually a bonus. So let's get into it. The first reason how they plan to take your property, they being family members, often siblings, how they plan to do it, are just for competing interests. Number one, competing interests, developments that you are in disagreement with. So they don't know what to do with the property, or they have different ideas of what to do with the property. One may want to sell it. We're talking about, let's just say, good old family home, mother and father, let's say 3 siblings, they grew up in it. Maybe one wants to sell it, 2 don't want to. One wants to sell it, one wants to renovate it, the other one doesn't care, right? And there are no plans made in agreement by the estate plan. Let's say mother and father left no will, which is oftentimes what happens. And so now you're left with 3 different scenarios that could happen. And a lot of times, the way that family homes are structured and the way they're titled, the interest in the home, which means, whoever owns it, it'll be split 3 equal different directions. So that means that each one of them has to agree or nothing can happen, right? Each one of them has to agree to sell, has to agree to buy, whatever it is. Each one of them has to agree, or else what happens is often it'll go to court and it's just sold. And now you don't have a house, but you have however much the house was worth in the sale. And what's really worth more? The property that you can keep, renovate, rent out, use for business and run a business out of, all the money that can be made in perpetuity through that, and then also pass on to the next generation for that. Or, let's say you sell it for $100,000 and you get $33,000. What's worth more? A one-time $33,000 payment, or perhaps a lifetime $300,000 that'll come in, maybe every year, just depending on how you use it. You really have to think through it. Okay, a lot of people don't think through it. They get their feelings and emotions tied up into the house or into the money, right? The quick cash right away. Think through it. All right. So that's number one, competing interests. You have developments that you're in disagreement with your siblings. They don't all agree on what to do with the property. The second one is related. It's conflicts, differing ideals. Okay, uh, a little bit kind of like the first one where you have competing interests, but this one is just a little bit different. They come into conflict, into tension. Okay, so competing interests, maybe you're able to solve that, right? I guess the higher we go on the ladder, the more intense, the more intense the disagreement is. Okay, so differing ideals, and for this one, I have a story of a past client who was an elderly woman. So, we're talking about the family unit. Father had already passed away. Other siblings actually had passed away. So it's just one elderly woman and her last remaining daughter. and they actually were joint owners in the house. Okay, the way that the property was structured, siblings were on the deed, so they're all joint owners now. And again, the way it's structured, all of them have to agree, or if none of them agree, it has to be sold. You cannot take apart the interest. There's a legal term, we'll get into that in another video. But for now, just know that in this scenario, all of them had an equal interest. So it means the house has to follow the entire interest, all of it. But they didn't agree on what to do with the property. You know, the elderly woman didn't want the daughter to inherit it. She wanted another family member who she felt was taking care of her more, to inherit the property, even though they lived together. There was just, it's sad to see. Just family dynamics are often, I say, what really kills the whole family plan. It's never the money, honestly. It's never the property itself. It's always the dynamic of the family. So when that goes sour, it's really hard to repair that. Sometimes it's irreparable. And like we'll see in the third scenario, you just have to take it somewhere else to a so-called higher power. In this scenario, it would be the court. But either way, in this example, mother and daughter, they didn't agree on what to do with the property. Mother wanted to pass it on to somebody else, but couldn't because daughter's name is on there too, and daughter disagreed with that. So now the property is at a standstill, right? There's that conflict there of what to do with the property, not competing interests of, one wants to do this, one wants to do that. It's made known what the plan is, but can't do it because that conflict exists. Okay. And so that's the second plot of how they plan to take the property, because even if you want to give it away, they're taking it because you can't do that, right? They're taking that interest back. They're claiming what is theirs rightfully, and they're stopping your future plans. All right. The third scenario, this is where I see it just escalate all the time. Now, if it's already at this point, I'm just going to let you know you probably will need an attorney and you probably will need to go to court. I always advise my clients, try to work it out. The first two steps you may be able to negotiate. Maybe the relationship is not bad, you just disagree. Maybe you go out to dinner and you talk it out through, like mature people, right? Not to say that anybody's immature here, but just reasonable people, just talk it out. When it gets here, to number three, then you're going to need to take it to court. And that is when you're dealing with a controlling personality, okay? A domineering personality. And I've had several instances of this come to me within the last not even full year. And it's usually a brother, okay? It's usually a male in the family. And a lot of times I find it's a younger brother, but it doesn't matter either way. The way I've seen it, it's been a brother who has a very controlling personality, wants to be in charge of everything, even if they're not physically present, like in the same state or in the same area, doesn't matter. Or even if they're not chosen to lead by the deceased parents. So I've had one case where mother passed away, did leave a will. Brother was not the person to take over the estate, but is still the bottleneck in it because they are just inserting their domineering personality into everything. And when you're dealing with a personality like that, because these are still your brothers and sisters that you love, it can be a lot harder to deal with, a lot harder to manage, a lot harder to negotiate with, a lot harder to say no to sometimes, right? Because you still love them. You remember them when they were in diapers. You remember all the good times you've had with them. It's just that now that doesn't matter, right? But it's still there. But I've seen it happen where, a brother, like I said, it's been a brother in many instances where I've seen it happen. It can be a sister too, but this is just what I've seen and what's been coming to me in my office, where they are just dead set on being the person that takes charge of everything, whether they are on the will or not, whether that was in the will of the parent or not, they are going to take it over. And now the entire property is at a standstill, no matter how much the other siblings are in agreement, or, whether they are all in agreement with each other or what to do with the property, it does not matter, because oftentimes, again, what happens is the property will pass down, let's say to four, or let's use our three siblings, and they'll all get an equal share. Let's say four, because that's even better. Four. So 100% divided by four, each of them has a 25% interest. And a lot of times what will happen is the whole 100% has to agree. And if not, it has to go to court and be sold, and everybody gets their 25%. All right. And that's the saddest thing that happens sometimes, because, again, most of the time, this is the family home where the siblings were raised, right? Where the grandbabies were presented, right? And where been in the family for decades. A lot of times here in Detroit, it's been the home where families have moved up from the South to the North. And it's been in that family for decades. We're talking 5 decades, 50 years, 40 years, and it doesn't have a mortgage. So it's paid off. It's owned in full. There's no mortgage, right? You just keep up with the taxes. But that doesn't matter when it comes to somebody who is dead set on getting what it is they want. And if they don't, they want to fight. They want to go to court. That's the first place they're trying to go. So that's why I said once they get to this stage, yes, you will probably need to go to court. You will probably need to hire an attorney, and you'll need to hire an attorney who can kind of recognize that that's what to do. I have a case right now where we tried to um, negotiate out of court, right? Letters back and forth, but it didn't matter because they were already ready to go to court. And I still always encourage and consult my clients, like, this is still your sibling. If you still have a relationship where you can talk to them, even if it's unpleasant, but you can still reach out and talk, please do that, because that's going to go a lot further, honestly, than anything we try to do in court. We're only taking it to court because that broke down. All right. So that is the third person, the third they in the family that try to take over the property, somebody with a controlling personality. Now, I said that there is a way to try to, clear all this up. Like I said, are you tired of dealing with these nagging family issues? Would you like to stop family drama that comes up? We've talked about a couple ways to do that. I'm just going to reiterate them. The first is, again, communication. Talk to that person. If you know somebody is going to present a problem, maybe they've always been that way, or maybe just lately. Like, I've seen it happen where it's really been leading up to the death of a parent, where you can see that behavior start to take over. I call it them seeing, kind of seizing their chance to take over, right? They don't need to play nice anymore. Mom and dad are not there anymore. Now they can really take over what it is that they want. So oftentimes the months, the years leading ahead to that is when you may see it manifest. Um, but either way, communicate with that person. Let them know, hey, this is what mom and dad wanted. This is what we are thinking about. How can we work this out? All right. And mom and dad, right? The people who are planning, right? Not just siblings right now who are planning for like their mother or the father this day, because oftentimes that happens, and that's fine. It has to be mother and father's will, but right, you get older, your parents get older, and you all start to think about these things among yourself. That's fine. Communicate cordially, all right, and communicate with compassion. That you understand that this is a difficult situation. We don't like to see mom like this. We don't like to see dad like this, but we're gonna have to work this out. I had to have that talk with my own siblings, right? When my father was passing away, literally we're all around the deathbed, which is his bed, before he was even transported to the hospital. And we're just talking these things through, because it's very important that we're all on accord on the same page. So communication is number one. And then I would say planning is number two. Once you've had that talk, make the plan. Communication, execution, make the plan. All right. Mom and dad, put it in the will, put it in the trust. Let the kids know where it is and who's going to do what. Make it plain to them. All right. Just like you would a plan for the house when they're little kids, right? This is the chores that you have to do. These are the chores you have to do. This is why. Here's the mop. Here's the broom. Know what to do, right? Just make it very simple, but it has to be communicated. It has to be executed. That is how you can stop them, family, from taking over your property. All right. And that's the second edition for this week. We're going to have one more next week of how they plan to take your property. It's going to be another day next week. That's going to be Wednesday, July 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until then, take care, take these lessons to heart, and I'll see you then. Bye.